Hello, editors. Today we're going to look at Greenscreen. There's not the only thing we're going to look at, but this we had footage shot by the camera team last week, and as a result, there's some good stuff to get into. And some of the things you're going to potentially look at here are taking green screen footage of, say, dancers and compositing it against um, some of the footage maybe taken by students on excursion. A second thing to look at will be creating this idea of a character, looking at the old Luna Park face, and then playing a little bit with that. Just a couple of basic techniques. And then a third one will be we have, as part of our Coney Island idea, we have this idea that we're going to film the various performers from the performance group as you might remember when we went to Luna Park, you would have seen these in the foyer, these presentational things looking at characters. And so we also, that's another possible thing we were green screen testing. And so different things from the storyboards were given to this team last week. Looks like there's even some fun things going on. So the first thing is there'll be a folder of green screen footage to bring into Premiere Pro. Now, what you're going to see here is what's on my desktop. There's a folder of footage now. Anything that's shot on the Blackmagic camera comes in the log format. What that means is that it looks a bit desaturated and so on. It looks like, hey, that's not as green as I'd expect. It's a bit milky and so on. Now, that's actually a way in which the footage preserves highlights and shadows and is actually capable of rendering more detail in the long run. And there's a way of addressing it. So what we're going to do is I'll set up a Premiere Pro project. So I'm going to start a project, make sure you base this out on the server in your folder, and just so you've got access to all your projects, as we always do. And this is going to be called green screen testing. Cool. So next thing would be to pull your media in, and just remember that you don't have to use the import page, and in fact I strongly recommend you don't. You can simply grab and drag in the various things that you need. Remember that you may need to select what workspace that you're in, and that your workspace may actually be concealed, as it often is in when you log into a new machine. And so here you go. Okay, well, we have our footage, and I will just close out of this work. So we're just looking at the new project that I've just set up, which is called green screen testing. And here you see, okay, here's some footage that looks a little bit bland. Now, what we're going to do firstly is, and it may make sense to do this in the assembly window where you can see a bit more. I am actually going to select all this and I'm going to put it in a bin. Now you can do that by right-clicking your clips or control-click on a Mac. You can say put all that in a bin, which is a green screen footage. And then later on we're going to bring in some other footage, which is called plates, and that's a bin. So I'm going to create a bin which can be done by pressing Command B, and this is plates. So these are possible backgrounds to green screen. The second thing we've got to solve is the fact that this footage is in the wrong color space. How we're going to do that is if you go to the color window, you can actually, when you select a clip here, you can actually nominate what its lookup table is. Now, a lookup table is a way of actually mapping the log color space into a more recognizable one. And you have to go and find something on our server called a Blackmagic lookup table. And I'll clarify the location of that with Shane, hopefully before this moment in the tutorial. I already have it preloaded here and bring it up. Okay, now I can see my footage correctly. In fact, I could do that for all of them. I can select and mark them all. So now all of them have about the correct color space set up. I don't need to be in color anymore. I'm going to go to editing, and my first sequence that I kind of want to set up, we'll create a sequence, which again, right click, new sequence, 1080p, 25 frames per second. This is going to be Ferris wheel dance. So the Ferris wheel dance is now a sequence that exists there, and that's the material where you can see two dancers working together here. I'll select both those clips and pull them on. And as you can see, what we're actually testing here is how well can we actually do head-to-toe green screen in a movie room. Can we get away with this? Is it safe for the dancers, etc.? And then what can we do with that footage? Now I'm going to trim to the part where they start dancing. On this clip, it seems to be here. If I press Q, that's Q, that will start the clip there. And I will go to where they seem to stop. They seem to break character there. And W trims the end off that. I can do that also for this second clip. So they break character there. Okay, W to trim the end. Q to trim the front. Now it's often quite good with green screen if you actually pull your clips up. Now I use the Alt key to separate audio and video. Alt lets you select audio without selecting the video, for what it's worth. And if I hold the Shift key while moving, then I can actually move it up and down. Now, what we actually then have to do is key this out. So you need the effects window to do that. Now, FX shortcut is Shift 7. And the effect that I'm looking for is Ultra key. So yes, well, you can go to effects up the top here. I tend to prefer to just hit Shift 7. It seems to use less RAM on the machine. Ultra key comes in. I'm dragging it onto both clips. And now as a background effect, underneath position, scale, opacity, all those good things, we have the Ultra key. And this allows us to select a color with this dropper. We are selecting a color with this dropper and key it out. As you can see, okay, this green was quite variable. It's struggled to do that. Now, a good way to refine what it's removed is to look at this in alpha channel, which says that the things that are going to be kept are the things in white, and the things that are going to be removed are the things in black. Notice that quite a few of the things that remain include the wall. And we want to, now another way of dealing with this is going, well, I want you to be more aggressive in your definition of green, and that improves things yet again. And then you have a few settings down here you can use to clean up. I find the pedestal setting under matte generation is quite effective. There is an issue though with this footage, and you can see it, which is, it seems like there's seams in the green screen that are revealing themselves, and we need to find a way around. Anything else we could try? I think in matte cleanup, sometimes midpoint does things, not really in this case. Contrast, okay, a little bit, but not that much. And if I go back to composite, you go, okay, so I can see them. Now another thing you can actually do is go, well, as I look at this dance footage, is there ever a part of the frame they don't go to? It does seem like Emily never goes past this point over here. What you can do is under opacity, you can go, here's a mask. You can put masks on in many ways. That's a circular mask centering on a lure. There's a rectangular mask. It can be moved around, extended, etc. As you wish, but we are going to put on draw a mask on. And just go, hey, I think they don't really go outside of here. So I'm kind of okay to just, now I've not really saved much of it, but it just means anything that's not particularly well keyed out there will kind of take out of the game. And you'll know if it's worked because can you still see their feet, their hands when you could before? Now, this is problematic. There's issues here, but this is essentially enough for you to go, okay, well, I could actually put something underneath this there and actually see what's going on here. So back in my media, my project, you've brought in some footage. Now you should bring in some plates. Plates are background. And I would go looking on the server for the excursion footage of um, week 2. And under our class, there's a couple of options, but you can pull interesting things. Easter's footage is quite strong. There's strong stuff all around, of course. But the Ferris wheel stuff from here um, was consistently good. So it's don't really love the Lunar Lounge as a backdrop. Let's say something like that is a good plate. And then there was some stuff later that night, an excursion. Okay, decent, decent. Okay, so here we've got a bit of footage of the roll kit of the Ferris wheel at night. So we'll pull this in, and what we can do with these, we can basically pull their footage underneath. And now you can see, okay, I can see them kind of moving now in relation to his footage. Now, um, some things are going to work better than others. The footage, of course, in its own way has its issues. Um, but you see, okay, there's some nice moments of synergy here. I'm managing to parallel this idea of the dance and this idea of the, the the Ferris wheel with each other, and it sort of makes them feel connected in some way. Here, my garbage mat is clearly flawed. It doesn't really deal with them being on the floor, so I'm going to lower that down. Cool. Now, anything else to say about this? Well, remember that you can kind of treat the layer on top really any which way you want. Like you can go, well, I'm going to actually, within certain limits, I'm going to actually keyframe that and actually sort of start in quite tight. Now you'd want to be shooting in 4K if you're going to do this because they've just blown it up twice over. But here I'm putting in basically a zoom where we are kind of moving out from them as we're moving against the footage. So we're going closer and closer to a wide shot. How well is that working? That's up to you. Other things I can do, I can actually take a layer and I can actually duplicate it. And the line there is its opacity, and I can sort of go, well, I actually want to see them through a layer of this footage, almost as though they're caught between two layers of this footage. So they become translucent. This could also itself be blown up. And perhaps even if I hit Shift 7 again, another thing I can throw in there is a blur effect over the top. I'm using the Gaussian blur, which is pretty common in After Effects and Premiere for this, and I'm just making the layer in the foreground a little bit translucent so that I'm going to cop them between a kind of blurry layer of the footage and an in focus layer of the footage. And now I've kind of got them surrounded by layers of this imagery. Now this could have been a different image. I suspect there's a certain visual chemistry that could be found here. Here, just try very briefly to look through one of the other plates that I used so that we're kind of descending this Ferris wheel even as it's moving through the background. So no, there's a little too much going on there. I'm not sure that works, but there's a certain level of experimentation that I think you should try here. And the main thing is that you're learning a little bit of what it's like to actually key out green screen and then play with the results. So that's Ferris wheel dance, and it's good. Now there's a much simpler one, and maybe this is a good one to start with once you're actually doing it, which is the 1930s standing against Luna Park face. Here I'll get one of you to actually work on the background plate in time as an option. But let's create another sequence, which is going to be called, this case, Luna Park face 1935. And against that Luna Park face, there's some footage of someone here at the end, which is kind of seeing over shoulder, includes a clapper. Again, I'll trim this down using Q, W, and these are two different eye lines we've been given. So this is kind of good because we can kind of see what feels like a workable eye line. This will obviously be done with an actor, but we're trying to just go technically. What do we need to do to make this look and feel better? And again, I'm going to apply Ultra Key, Shift 7, type in key, get the Ultra Key, and we'll start with this one. And here I'm just keying out. If I press Command at the same time as I use the dropper, it actually Command plus the dropper samples from a wider area. And straight away you see this is a much easier case than the two dancers who are much closer to the green screen. Okay, so I've gone to aggressive and I've just wound that key up a little bit. Now, one of the assets that I'll put into the server for you guys to work with is this illuminated face asset. Now this is a one which has done a bit of a basic light pulse here. I'd like to give this over to one of you to explore and see what else we can do with this. And now just putting it underneath, as you see through the green screen. And the salient issue is that she's in color, so we can actually deal with that and go, hey, let's go to creative, pick this monochrome black and white footage, and I can go to curves and I can actually deepen the blacks there as well. Now, she's not really lit like she's there. In fact, I've kind of gone a bit far there. It's, yeah, to compensate, but here you go. Okay, interesting. So, do I believe it? Do I feel like she's there now? Just to add on top of this, you got these two together and you want to actually do something together with them. You want to do a zoom over it. You don't have to do a zoom on the two at the same time. You can right click, you can nest, you can say go against face 1, and it creates a kind of joint little timeline that just has those two things together. And then you can operate on that timeline here. And what I would like to do here is to actually just do a basic zoom over the shot. So I put a keyframe on scale and position at the start. I put a keyframe on scale and position deeper into the shot. I zoom in and towards the face. Maybe I'll lose her from the shot. Probably keep the towers in. And might be a little bit fast, but has some potential. Other things you could play with involve the focus. So this is a little introduction to Greenscreen. What I'd like you guys to do is each take some different assets and to explore with them. I'll put together some material involving Ferris wheel, looking for interesting compositions. Now, yes, you can go and do this in After Effects and probably in some ways more effectively, but remember to learn the thing that you don't know. Try this thing. There will be times when it's more convenient to do it in Premiere and it will be good enough for it, no matter how good After Effects is. So let's embrace that. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, guys, and I will see you in on.